Okay, hello everyone. I want to thank everyone for joining us on our weekly live stream resume workshop that we're going to be streaming through our Facebook page, which is Swab Inc. So every Monday going forward for the next few weeks at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, we're going to be doing these workshops and discussing different topics like resume building, interview tips, entrepreneurship. So really a wide range of topics that we're going to discuss and really make sure that for those who are still looking for employment, you're as best prepared when either you actually get called in for an interview or for when you actually do find that job. Right now, I think what I want to start off by doing is just introduce myself. So my name, again, is Alexander Florio. I'm one of the co-founders of Swab. So if you're unfamiliar of what Swab is a job app that we've created, but with a specific focus on higher turnover industries, such as retail, restaurants, hospitality, and really with a main focus on those entry-level type of positions. How the app works is it's free to download. It's available in both the App Store and Google Play. You create a quick profile, you answer a few questions, you upload a resume, and then from there, jobs will appear. And similar to the app Tinder, if you don't want to apply to a job, you have the option to swipe left. And if you do want to apply, you swipe right. But one of the things that I want to talk about today and in today's live stream is resume building. Being the co-founder, I've seen a lot of resumes come through, and I've really been able to see and identify what makes a strong resume versus what makes a really poor resume. And one of the things that I often hear from job seekers is they feel like they've done everything properly in their resume, but they either have too much information or too little. So I want to talk today about what the employers are looking for in an ideal candidate. And with these live streams, we're going to try to keep them pretty short. We want to get to the point, give out the information, and then move on. So we're going to try to keep them around 10 to 15 minutes. I think that's a pretty good number, but we'll see how they go, and we'll see how you guys find the information. So first off, I want to thank everyone for joining, and I do want to get into the workshop now. So I just want to give some tips on what employers are looking for in a resume. So I think, the first thing that I want to talk about is keep it simple and don't overdo it. I think a lot of job seekers and a lot of candidates will try to put as much information into their resume as possible. And that's good. I think you want to put in any relevant information, but sometimes people can overdo it and add in too much. When your resume is around 3, 4, 5 pages, that's not a good sign. Usually a really strong resume is 1 to 2 pages max. So really make sure that whatever information you're including on your resume is relevant and you want the employer to see that, because overdoing it can actually hurt you. And I know that a lot of people might not think that, and it might seem, the other way around, where you have all of that information and you think it's benefiting you, but it's really not. An employer doesn't want to look at a resume that's 4 or 5 pages long. They want that information right up front. They want it to be clear. They want it to be simple, and they want to know right away. So that's one thing, is just make sure whatever information you have on your resume is relevant, and you want to keep it short and simple. I think the second tip, and this is an obvious thing, but you'd be surprised at how many people don't include this information, is have your contact information on your resume. Have it right up at the front, or right up at the very top. I've seen a lot of resumes that have come through to me that don't have the person's information. They don't have the person's email address or their phone number. And you might sit there and think, well, that's crazy, and it seems obvious to you, but a lot of people don't include that information. And how are you going to get called in for an interview from an employer if you don't have your contact info? So I know that might seem obvious to, an obvious thing to have to most of you, but a lot of people don't have that. So make sure you have your contact information on your resume. The third tip is, I think you want to include the most relevant work experience. It's good to have all of your work experience on your resume, but if you worked a job that, if you're starting your career and you're, looking for more professional opportunities, if you worked as a, I don't know, a buggy boy or a cashier 10 years ago when you were in high school, working part time, that might not be the most relevant work experience. So you might want to consider removing that from your resume. But with that said, if that's your only work experience, then I would suggest to include that. So I think it's really up to you. You have to think about your experience and really kind of determine what you think is important and what isn't. But if you can remove that type of work experience from your resume and really only include the professional experience that you have, I say go that route. But again, if you don't have any work experience, or if the work experience you have is very little, then you still want to include that because it'll show the employer that you have some experience. Fourth tip that I want to talk about is references. I've been asked a lot the last little while is, should I include my references on my resume? And I've noticed that with this, it goes both ways. There's the debate to have them included and not to have it included. I think it really depends. I don't think you want to have a page of references, but I think if you have one or two that are really strong, then you might want to include them. But even with your references, make sure that you keep in communication with them. Let them know that you want to use them as a reference, because I've heard from people that they've put down a reference and that reference was called and had no idea that they were even listed as a reference on that individual's resume. So make sure you're in contact with your references. Make sure that they know that you're going to include them on their resume or on your own resume, and try to see what they're going to say about you. Whether you're referencing a previous colleague or a previous manager or whoever it might be, try to see and find out what they're going to say, because just because you're listing somebody as a reference doesn't necessarily they're going to say something good about you to a potential employer. So I think you really want to make sure that you're keeping in contact with your references and really keeping that line of communication with them and that relationship going, because a reference can be the difference between landing a job opportunity and not getting that job opportunity. So make sure you stay in touch with them. Number 5, I want to talk about, and I think we're going to actually include more tips than just 5, but spelling. This is a big one. There should be no excuse when building a resume to have any spelling mistakes. There are so many different programs that we have available to us right now that make sure you're spelling properly and that there's no errors in your resume. And for somebody like me, at least, grammar is a big thing, and that's something that I notice right away. So if it's something that I notice, you better believe other employers notice this as well. So make sure there are no spelling mistakes in your resume. I can't stress that enough. Have other people look at your resume, put it through different programs that will check for errors or for spelling errors, because that is a big issue with a lot of resumes. And most people will just give their resume a quick glance over, think that it looks good, and not realize that they have a ton of spelling errors in there. So just make sure that your resume has no spelling mistakes in there. Next thing I want to talk about is stats. If you have any relevant stats, or if you, I don't know, maybe you helped grow a previous business from 5% to 10% in sales, or whatever it could be, throw those relevant stats in there. Employers love to see those types of stats, and it shows that you work hard to make sure that you're improving, and you want to make sure that you're growing your numbers. So any relevant statistics you can have, I think, is a great thing to add to a resume. And I think the last thing I want to talk about is tailoring your resume. So what I mean by that is, if you're a marketing graduate and you're looking for opportunities in the marketing industry, I think you want to indicate that right at the very top in your objective, that you're looking for a role in marketing, and maybe even list out a specific type of role that you're looking for. So, if you are looking for example, a marketing coordinator role, indicate that. And make sure that you're tailoring your resume to the industry that you're applying to. So you don't want to be submitting your resume to a marketing firm saying, I'm looking for a customer service role or a accounting role. You want to make sure that your resume is tailored and that you are really narrowing down the industry that you're applying to. Because if an employer sees something like that, where you're looking to apply in a marketing firm and the first thing in your objective is, I'm looking for an accountant role, they're not going to take you seriously. They're going to know that you didn't really take the time to look at your resume or even look at the job description for that matter. And odds are your resume is just going to be tossed or not even acknowledged. So I really want to make sure that in your objective, or you really want to make sure in your objective, that you're clear with the industry that you want to apply to, and make sure you're tailoring your resume to each role that you're applying to. I can't stress that enough. It's very important, and it's not done often enough. And I think that's a big mistake that a lot of job seekers make, that they don't even think about it, or they don't even realize that they're making that mistake. So it's a simple one to fix that can help go a long way. So I think we're going to cut the video now. I think this was good. I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to keep these videos short, to the point, give out tips, quick tips, little things that you can do when changing your resume, or when building out your resume rather. I hope that this was useful for you. I hope that you were able to benefit from this and take the tips that I've been sharing and really make sure that you implement them into your own resume. These are tips that I've learned along the way and have actually gathered from various employers and speaking to various employers, and just from learning about what they look for in an ideal resume and an ideal candidate. So hopefully you take these tips. Hopefully they'll help. I know that, from speaking to a lot of employers and the employers that are posting on Swab, these are the qualities and the things that they look for in a resume before they even call somebody in. So if your resume doesn't have this kind of information or these different points that we talked about, then you're not even going to get called. So I just want to make sure that you take these tips, you actually put them into your resume, because it'll help you when you're looking for an opportunity. And if you are looking for opportunities, there are still many job opportunities available on Swab. I know that right now it's just a crazy time with everything that's happening, but employers are still looking for candidates like you on Swab. So if you're still looking for job positions, be sure to check out Swab. Again, it's free in the App Store and Google Play. And we're going to be having this session again next Monday at 1 o'clock, so the 20th. And I hope to see you guys there. Thank you for joining us today.